There is a weakness inside you that has learned your habits better than you have. It knows exactly when you hesitate, exactly when you lower your standards, exactly when you give yourself an easy way out. It waits in the quiet moments where no one else can see and whispers just enough doubt to keep you still. And every time you listen, you trade away a piece of your future. This weakness is not loud. It doesn't scream or shove. It seduces you with comfort. It convinces you that resting a little longer, delaying a little more, lowering the bar just this once is harmless. But weakness is never harmless. Every time you feed it, it grows stronger. Every time you obey it, you train your mind to accept less than you are capable of. And if you let it grow unchecked, it will own you completely. It will kill your dreams long before you even try to live them. You cannot reason with weakness. You cannot negotiate with it. You cannot keep it around and hope it will behave. The only way forward is to kill it before it kills your future. Killing weakness begins with an unforgiving level of self-honesty. You have to admit where you've been lying to yourself, where you've been calling procrastination patience, where you've been calling avoidance strategy, where you've been calling excuses reasons. You cannot destroy what you will not confront, and you cannot confront what you refuse to name. The most dangerous thing about weakness is that it's not just in your habits, it's in your identity. It hides inside the way you see yourself. It disguises itself as your personality, as your preferences, as just the way you are. And so when you try to change, it convinces you that you are betraying yourself. But you are not betraying yourself. You are betraying your weakness. And that is the only betrayal worth committing. Weakness will tell you that you can change later. Later is the word that buries more potential than failure ever could. Later is how people waste their whole lives without realizing it's happening. The truth is, you will never be ready later if you are not willing now. Because readiness is not a gift life gives you. It's a decision you make in the middle of discomfort, uncertainty, and fear. The moment you choose to act despite not feeling ready is the moment you begin starving your weakness. Every time you break the pattern it relies on, you take away its power. Every time you follow through instead of hesitating, you put another crack in its foundation. And one day, if you are relentless enough, the foundation collapses entirely. But weakness will not die quietly. It will fight harder when it knows it's losing. It will attack you with memories of every failure, every mistake, every time you came up short. It will use those moments as proof that you can't change. And you must respond with action so decisive that there is no room left for negotiation. Weakness thrives in hesitation. You kill it in motion. This isn't about hating who you are. It's about refusing to let the weakest parts of you decide your future. Because your future will be built by one of two forces, your discipline or your weakness. One will create a life that expands you. The other will create a life that slowly erases you. You cannot serve both. So ask yourself right now, which will you serve? And whatever your answer is, prove it before the day ends. Weakness is patient. It's not in a hurry to ruin you. It knows it can take years from you without you even noticing. It takes a little here, a little there. The opportunity you didn't seize, the standard you lowered, the promise you didn't keep to yourself. At first, you barely feel the loss. But over time, you wake up and realize you're living in a version of your life you never intended to create. You didn't choose it outright. You drifted into it. That is how weakness works, not with one dramatic defeat, but with 1,000 quiet surrenders. You have to stop those surrenders now. That means you must set standards that do not move, standards that do not depend on your mood, your circumstances, or your comfort. The weak version of you treats standards like suggestions. It keeps them only when it's convenient. But the future you want will not be built on convenience. It will be built on consistency. And consistency is not glamorous. It's not thrilling. It's the repetition of actions that most people are too bored or too tired to keep doing. It's waking up early when no one else will know. It's finishing the work when you'd rather scroll through distractions. It's showing up for yourself in ways that are invisible to the world, but impossible to fake in your own heart. When you live like this, something changes in your energy. You begin to walk differently, to speak with more certainty, to stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand your commitment. Weakness cannot survive in this environment. It suffocates in discipline. But discipline is not about punishing yourself. It's about freeing yourself. Because every moment you let weakness choose, you are giving away freedom. Freedom to control your time, freedom to trust yourself, freedom to create a life without invisible ceilings. Weakness doesn't just hold you back, it locks you in. And every disciplined choice you make is a key turning in that lock. You must also understand this. Weakness will always try to disguise itself as reason. It will tell you you're too tired to keep going, too inexperienced to try, too underprepared to begin. And here's the dangerous part. Sometimes those things will be true, but the stronger self moves anyway. It moves when the energy isn't there. It moves when the resources aren't perfect. It moves when the confidence is nowhere to be found. Because movement is what creates the very things you think you need before starting. You will know you are killing your weakness when the excuses in your mind start sounding familiar, but you no longer obey them. You will hear them, and then move anyway. And every time you do, the voice gets quieter, not because it's gone, but because it's losing its influence. This is the work that most people avoid. They want the results of strength without the daily execution that strength demands. They want the identity of someone who is unstoppable without letting go of the habits of someone who stops all the time. They want the reward, but not the cost. And so their weakness survives, dressed in the clothes of self-care or realism, while their potential withers. If you are willing to pay the cost, your life will look nothing like theirs. But you cannot pay it once. You must pay it daily, in full. There comes a moment when you have to decide whether you are going to keep living as a caretaker for your own weakness. Because make no mistake, you've been protecting it. You've been defending it from discomfort. You've been shielding it from situations that would expose it. And the more you protect it, the more it grows into the defining force of your life. You protect weakness every time you say yes to something that keeps you small. You protect it when you avoid the conversation you know you need to have. You protect it when you lower the weight, shorten the distance, cut the effort, or skip the steps simply because it's easier. And yet you wonder why your life isn't changing. It isn't changing because you are protecting the very thing that's holding it in place. The future you want is allergic to weakness. It cannot exist in the same space. That's why the first step toward that future is not adding more ambition or strategy, it's subtraction. You have to strip away every pattern, habit, and environment that feeds the weaker you. That means making decisions that will not feel good in the moment. It means stepping into rooms where you are unprepared, conversations where you are uncomfortable, work that exposes where you fall short, because only when weakness is exposed can it be removed. This process is not pretty. You will feel resistance every step of the way. That resistance is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're in the right place. Weakness screams the loudest when it's being starved. When you keep going anyway, you are teaching yourself a truth that will rewrite your future. You are not your feelings. You are not your doubts. You are not your tiredness, your fear, or your hesitation. You are your decisions. And decisions, repeated enough times, become identity. Every time you act in strength, you are voting for the person you are becoming. And every time you act in weakness, you are voting for the person you are staying. This is not a single election. It is a daily one. And the ballot is every choice you make. You must also learn to stop glamorizing the idea of motivation. Motivation is useful, but it is unreliable. There will be mornings when it's nowhere to be found. There will be days when you feel nothing but resistance toward the work in front of you. Weakness waits for those days. It knows that if you rely on feeling ready, it can keep you frozen for as long as it wants. That's why discipline must replace motivation as your fuel. Discipline is the decision to move when you don't want to. It's the commitment to do what you said you would do long after the mood has left you. It's the habit of showing up without asking yourself how you feel about it. Weakness hates discipline because it cannot survive where there is no negotiation. When you master this, you'll notice something powerful. The things that used to intimidate you will become normal. The challenges that used to paralyze you will become routine. You will move through situations with a calm certainty that surprises even you. This is not because the world has changed, but because you have. You have built a mind that no longer defaults to the easy way out, and that kind of mind is unstoppable. But you can't build it by accident. You must choose it every single day. There comes a moment when you have to decide whether you are going to keep living as a caretaker for your own weakness. Because make no mistake, you've been protecting it. You've been defending it from discomfort. You've been shielding it from situations that would expose it. And the more you protect it, the more it grows into the defining force of your life. You protect weakness every time you say yes to something that keeps you small. You protect it when you avoid the conversation you know you need to have. You protect it when you lower the weight, shorten the distance, cut the effort, or skip the steps simply because it's easier. And yet you wonder why your life isn't changing. It isn't changing because you are protecting the very thing that's holding it in place. The future you want is allergic to weakness. It cannot exist in the same space. That's why the first step toward that future is not adding more ambition or strategy, it's subtraction. You have to strip away every pattern, habit, and environment that feeds the weaker you. That means making decisions that will not feel good in the moment. It means stepping into rooms where you are unprepared, conversations where you are uncomfortable, work that exposes where you fall short. Because only when weakness is exposed can it be removed. This process is not pretty. You will feel resistance every step of the way. That resistance is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're in the right place. Weakness screams the loudest when it's being starved. When you keep going anyway, you are teaching yourself a truth that will rewrite your future. You are not your feelings. You are not your doubts. You are not your tiredness, your fear, or your hesitation. You are your decisions. And decisions repeated enough times become identity. Every time you act in strength, you are voting for the person you are becoming. And every time you act in weakness, you are voting for the person you are staying. This is not a single election. It is a daily one. And the ballot is every choice you make. You must also learn to stop glamorizing the idea of motivation. Motivation is useful, but it is unreliable. There will be mornings when it's nowhere to be found. There will be days when you feel nothing but resistance toward the work in front of you. Weakness waits for those days. It knows that if you rely on feeling ready, it can keep you frozen for as long as it wants. That's why discipline must replace motivation as your fuel. Discipline is the decision to move when you don't want to. It's the commitment to do what you said you would do long after the mood has left you. It's the habit of showing up without asking yourself how you feel about it. Weakness hates discipline because it cannot survive where there is no negotiation. When you master this, you'll notice something powerful. The things that used to intimidate you will become normal. The challenges that used to paralyze you will become routine. You will move through situations with a calm certainty that surprises even you. This is not because the world has changed, but because you have. You have built a mind that no longer defaults to the easy way out. And that kind of mind is unstoppable. But you can't build it by accident. You must choose it every single day. Weakness thrives in the spaces where you think no one is watching. It grows in the quiet, in the moments between your public victories and your private choices. It doesn't care how good you look on the outside. It cares about what you do when there is no audience. That is where the real battle is fought. Not in the speeches you give, not in the promises you make, but in the moments when you could take the shortcut and no one would know. The stronger self understands this. It knows that integrity is built in solitude, that every hidden decision is laying bricks for the life you will eventually have to live in. And if those bricks are shaped by weakness, the house will not stand when pressure comes. But if they are shaped by discipline, by the refusal to betray yourself when no one else would catch you, the foundation becomes unshakable. You see, weakness doesn't always look like laziness. Sometimes it looks like overthinking. Sometimes it looks like chasing perfection, so you never have to begin. Sometimes it looks like being reasonable in a way that excuses you from doing anything uncomfortable. It wears many masks because it knows the real you would never accept it if it came to you honestly. So it disguises itself as caution, as kindness to yourself, as patience. But patience without action is not patience. It's delay. And delay is weakness in disguise. The most dangerous form of weakness is the one you justify, the one you defend, the one you've made peace with. That is the version that can live in you for decades without ever being challenged. And if you want to kill it, you have to strip it of its justifications. That means taking a hard look at every area of your life and asking, is this serving me or is this protecting my weakness? And then no matter how uncomfortable the answer, you act. This will change the way you see yourself. Because the moment you stop protecting your weakness, you stop negotiating with your potential. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, what would it take for me to do this? That shift is everything. It is the difference between a life of constant hesitation and a life of relentless progress. And progress is the enemy of weakness. Weakness survives in cycles. It keeps you going in circles, repeating the same patterns while convincing you you're moving forward. But when you commit to progress, real, measurable, undeniable progress, you break those cycles. You force weakness into the light where it has no power. The truth is, you already know where your weakness lives. You can feel it. You can see it in the things you avoid, in the promises you've delayed, in the habits you refuse to confront. You don't need more clarity, you need more courage. Because killing weakness is not about knowing what to do. It's about doing what you've known all along. And when you start, you must be ruthless. Because weakness will try to adapt. It will find new angles, new disguises, new voices to speak through. That's why you must commit to a standard so high, so immovable, that it cannot find a foothold. This is the life you were meant to live, not one where you are constantly negotiating with your limitations, but one where you are too focused on your vision to entertain them at all. Weakness has one ultimate goal, to convince you that you have more time than you do. It whispers, you can start tomorrow, next week, next month. You're not ready yet. You'll be better prepared later. And in that delay, it steals from you in the most irreversible way. It takes time you will never get back. You can regain money. You can regain health. You can even regain opportunities in new forms. But you can never regain the years wasted listening to the voice that told you to wait. This is why the most powerful thing you can do is make your move now. Before the perfect plan, before the perfect feeling, before the perfect moment. Weakness feeds on hesitation. It dies in the presence of decisive action. Every step you take before you feel ready is a blade to its throat. Every moment you act without waiting for permission is another cut to its power. You must also understand that killing weakness is not just about refusing bad habits. It's about replacing them with habits that make weakness impossible to sustain. If you eliminate your excuses but leave empty space, weakness will find a way back in. You must fill that space with structure, with standards, with commitments so non-negotiable that they crowd out the possibility of retreat. When you live like this, your life starts to shift in ways that are subtle at first but impossible to ignore over time. You stop wasting mental energy debating whether you'll do the thing you said you'd do. You just do it. You stop feeling like an imposter because your actions finally match the person you claim to be. You stop needing external validation because the respect you have for yourself becomes the loudest voice in your life. Weakness can't survive in that environment. It can only live in the space between your words and your actions. Close that space, and you close every doorway it has to influence you. But let me be clear. you will still hear its voice. Even after months of discipline, even after years of progress, it will find moments to return. The difference is that by then, you will know it instantly for what it is. You will no longer confuse it with your intuition or your reason. You will recognize its tone, its patterns, its manipulations. And in that recognition, you will have the power to dismiss it before it takes root. This is when you become truly dangerous to your old self, because the most powerful person is not the one who never feels weak. It's the one who refuses to act on weakness when it shows up. And when you live like that, your future stops being a distant hope and becomes an inevitable reality. The only thing standing between you and that reality is whether you are willing to put your weakness to death before it puts your future in the ground. Not someday, not when it's convenient. Now, there is a shift that happens when you've starved your weakness long enough. At first, the fight feels constant. Every day is a tug of war between what you want now and what you want most. But over time, something changes. The decisions that once took everything out of you become your default. The voice that once convinced you to delay, to compromise, to back away, becomes a faint echo. You've built a new identity, not through words, but through proof. And proof is what kills weakness faster than anything else. You cannot argue with consistent evidence when day after day, week after week, you see yourself showing up when you used to disappear, doing the work you used to avoid, keeping the promises you used to break. That is when you begin to believe on a level so deep it can't be shaken. That belief is not fragile like motivation. It's not fleeting like excitement. It's permanent because it's built on lived experience. This is why weakness fights so hard to stop you in the early stages. It knows that once you've built enough proof, it will never control you again. It knows that once you've experienced the strength that comes from keeping your word to yourself, you will never be able to go back to living the way you did before. That is the tipping point. The point where your life starts to transform faster than you imagined, because you're no longer debating your own capability, you're living in it. But here is where many fail. They mistake this turning point for the finish line. They loosen their grip, relax their standards, start thinking they've earned the right to coast. And just like that, weakness creeps back in, disguised as rest, disguised as balance, disguised as taking it easy for a while. Before they know it, the standards that lifted them are gone, replaced by the same compromises that used to own them. If you want to kill weakness permanently, you cannot let your guard down when things are going well. The habits that built your strength are the habits that will keep it. You must protect them as if your future depends on them, because it does. Weakness is not an enemy you defeat once. It is a shadow you keep in check for the rest of your life. And the way you do that is simple. Never stop holding yourself to the standard you once thought was impossible. Never stop making decisions that the weaker you would have avoided. Never stop being the person who acts before they feel ready. Because when you live like that, weakness has no oxygen left to breathe. And when weakness can't breathe, your future expands in ways you can't even predict. Opportunities appear. People treat you differently. Your own reflection changes. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you and start feeling like it's something you are actively shaping. This is not about being perfect. It's about being relentless. It's about showing weakness and yourself that you will never again trade your future for the comfort of the present moment. And when you live with that conviction, there's nothing left to fear, because you know without a doubt that you have already killed the thing that could have destroyed you. One day you will wake up and realize that the version of yourself that once controlled your life is gone. Not weakened, not tamed, gone. The habits that used to drain you will feel foreign. The thoughts that used to scare you will feel irrelevant. The excuses that once seemed reasonable will sound ridiculous. You will have stepped so far beyond the reach of your old self that returning will no longer be an option. And in that moment, you will understand what true freedom feels like. Freedom is not about doing whatever you want. It's about no longer being controlled by the parts of you that want to destroy you. It's about making decisions from strength instead of fear, from clarity instead of confusion, from vision instead of reaction. But that freedom will not come to you. You will not stumble into it. You will not inherit it. You will build it with every small act of defiance against the part of you that tells you to wait, to hide, to take the easy way. And when you finally arrive there, you will carry a quiet confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away. The real reward for killing your weakness is not just the life you create. It's the person you become in the process. A person who keeps their word even when no one is watching. A person who moves with purpose even when no one is cheering. A person who sees obstacles not as signs to stop, but as proof that they are on the right path. And when you reach that point, your very existence becomes a message to others. Without saying a word, you show them what's possible when you refuse to be ruled by weakness. You become living proof that it's not about luck or talent or the perfect timing. It's about the daily choice to kill the habits, the patterns, and the mindsets that keep you small. That is the legacy worth leaving. Not just the things you achieve, but the example you set. Because in a world where weakness is the default, living from strength is revolutionary. And you don't have to shout about it. You don't have to convince anyone. You simply have to live it. So today, make the decision. End the negotiations. Remove the excuses. Step into the discomfort. Do the thing you've been avoiding. And in that single act, you will feel the shift. The first cut into the root of the weakness that has been holding you back. Keep cutting, keep moving, keep proving to yourself that your future matters more than your comfort. Because there will come a day when you will thank yourself for being ruthless. A day when you will look around at the life you've built, the peace you've earned, the strength you've become, and you will know exactly when it started. It started the moment you decided that the weakness would not survive another day. Kill the weakness before it kills your future, and watch everything you thought was impossible become the only life you know how to live. The world makes way for those who dare to rise. Click the Rise button now to subscribe and claim the destiny waiting for you. Your time is now.